The history of Adventist mission, an urban center of influence in the heart of Jakarta, Indonesia, and Pastor Dwight Nelson coming up next. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm standing in front of the Liberty Bell here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And this bell here is an iconic symbol of American independence, and engraved on it are the words from Leviticus, "Proclaim freedom throughout the land." On today's program, we'll be looking at an urban center of influence in Jakarta, Indonesia. We'll be talking with Pastor Dwight Nelson. But first up, let's look at another aspect of Adventist mission history.
Over 40,000 kilometers around, 24,901 miles in circumference. The Earth is big. And you want to send a message. What do? A long time ago, the options were limited. You might have sent up smoke signals, blown a ram's horn, built a fire beacon, or sounded the drums. With the written word, hand-delivered mail became an option. Later, carrier pigeons became popular. In the 15th century, sailors started using maritime flag semaphores. In the 18th century, optical telegraph. Then the electric telegraph, signal lamps, and acoustic phonograph. Finally, in 1876, the telephone was invented. In a few years, wireless telegraphy and radio would follow. Television hit in 1927, and as early as 1946, there were limited-capacity mobile phones in cars. Transatlantic telephone cable followed. Then commercial satellites and fiber optics. By 1969, computers were networking with each other. Ship-to-shore satellite communications gave way to the first cellular phone network, and finally, the internet. Now, if you want to send a message to the other side of the planet, you can email, text, call, Skype, FaceTime, or voice over IP telephone if you want. 40,000 kilometers around, the world is very small. Ellen White had this to say: "The vineyard includes the whole world, and every part of it is to be worked. The whole earth is to be illuminated with the glory of God's truth. The light is to shine to all lands and all peoples. Our burden for the regions beyond can never be laid down until the whole earth shall be lightened with the glory of the Lord." Was the church up to that kind of challenge? Buckle up for a high-speed history lesson. The first half of the 20th century was filled with firsts for the Adventist church. The first church in Bangladesh, church in Indonesia, missionaries in Malaysia, tent meetings in Palestine, church in the Bahamas, church in Ecuador, evangelistic meeting in Jordan, indigenous church in Egypt, mission on the island of Guadeloupe, converts in Puerto Rico, school in Hawaii, converts in Iran, training school in India, Adventists enter Sicily, church in Dominican Republic, academy in the Philippines, missionary school in Finland, Brazilian minister ordained, Teachers Institute in China, public meetings in Cambodia, church in Colombia, convert baptisms and church in Iraq, mission in Burundi, clinic in Malaysia, missionaries arrive in Liberia, mission among Guatemalan Indians, church on island of Martinique, church in Cameroon, evangelism in Guam and Micronesia, baptisms in Madeira Island, radio evangelism in Argentina and Cuba, missionary to Cape Verde, sanitarium in Korea, post-secondary school in Lebanon, house-to-house evangelism in French Guinea, radio evangelism in Brazil, summer camp in Puerto Rico, school in Ethiopia, church in Taipei, Taiwan, television broadcast of Faith for Today. At the turn of the 20th century, the church was operating foreign missions like smoke signals and carrier pigeons. But then the countries that had received missionaries started sending out missionaries on their own. And then they sent out missionaries on their own. It's a small world after all. Between the end of 1910 and the end of 1950, over 650,000 new Adventists joined the World Church. And that's not all. We skimmed over one of the best parts of the story. Things got really exciting right around the start of the Great Depression.
My guest is Pastor Dwight Nelson, who's a senior pastor of the Pioneer Memorial Church in Berrien Springs, Michigan. It's almost as cold as Michigan here,
I
Dwight.
tell you, Gary, it is.
We're here in Philadelphia, and you know, you pastor a large church, you're a busy man, but you've come to spend a week
Yeah.
in this location with like 20 or 30 young people. What's happening?
Well, we're passing by this storefront here, and that's all it is a storefront. You would drive by, you would say, man, there's a big school of evangelism here, but it's the Columbia Union's Reach School of Evangelism. And your friend of mine, Tara Van Cross, who's a pastor, they put her in charge of running this school. And what we've got are 13 young adults between 19 and 30 just turned on to become immersed in evangelism. Give me the skills, teach me the principles. And so Tara said, hey, Dwight, come on over. Let's talk to them about preaching. Let's just say, hey, you're going to have to get up in front of a group at some point. Here's how you do it. And so we're spending the week just thinking, preaching, and it's just a treat for me.
Wonderful. So you are working with kids at the grassroots who are enthusiastic.
Really.
What are you telling them?
I'm telling them, hey guys, it doesn't matter what career you're going into. You're going to have to communicate publicly, because the whole deal with the Gospel Commission is you got to talk. They'll see it in your face, they'll see it in your lifestyle, but at some point the mouth must open and declare that Jesus is Lord. Isn't that right?
Okay.
Romans 10.
Right.
So you're going to have to talk. Let's find out how to be the most effective communicators we can be. You're going to get up in front of 20 people and teach the Bible, get up in front of a little congregation or a big congregation. Here's how, and it's just been a treat for me, because I teach seminarians. Okay, so these are the pros. These guys, hey, I do this for a living, but these kids are total volunteers, taking a year out of their young lives to immerse themselves and learn how to be the best we can be for Jesus.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now this school has a specific urban focus. It's located in an urban community. In fact, this is basically a center of influence for this community. Why is urban mission particularly important today?
For me, look, I live in a little village out in the middle of nowhere in Michigan, right, Andrews University. But it's absolutely clear. The world has moved to urban centers everywhere, every continent, every country. So if the Adventist Church is serious about its mission to reach every kindred, tribe, tongue, and people, we have got to be moving into cities. We have to move into cities. Philadelphia is the fourth largest city in the United States, but we got Chicago near us, we got LA, of course, and New York, so there you are, the top four. We've got to be in those cities. We can't sit on the outskirts and just once in a while make this triumphant ride in on and charge the cavalry, do a little bit of evangelism and leave. We've got to penetrate. We've got to incarnate. That's the whole incarnational ministry of Jesus. We got to go in. So this is the perfect place to be teaching evangelism. And urban evangelism is the future of the church. If we only do rural evangelism, this church will just slowly diminish and disappear. We have to do urban evangelism.
You've convinced me.
I was hoping I would, Gary.
Now, I know that you recently took the book, It's Time,
Yep.
and you read through that with your staff. Why did you choose that book?
Well, number one, it was free because I got it in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Number two, I went home in July and I read the book. And when I read the book, I said, man, every senior leader on our team needs to read this. So the staff went through it for our worships this last fall at Pioneer. We just two Monday nights ago handed out 40 copies to the church board, because this idea of center of influence, even at Andrews University, Pioneer has to be a center of influence. We got to do what the book is saying. You got to, Jesus method, Ministry of Healing 143, mingle among men and women, find out what their needs are and go into those needs. And so we got to do it there. We're going to have to do it everywhere on earth. And the book is just if I could push the book, I would just push it to the max, because it will inspire your soul. 13 different places on earth that are actually setting up centers of influence. And it's saying, you can do it. You can really do this.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Dwight, you mentioned your church. You said it's in a little village, but it's a very influential church, and you've got a lot of people. How do you balance the cost, the time for ministry in your local area with the needs of the world field as well? How do you balance local and foreign mission?
My conviction is this. Jesus said, this ought you to have done and not leave the other undone. We're not talking about an either or. The moment we get into an either or, something goes down. And in fact, That little 5'3" lady named Ellen White once said, the reciprocal kickback is so huge when you invest in the global. It will, a rising tide lifts all ships. She didn't say that, but that's the point. It will, the local parish just rises as its vision expands globally. It cannot be either or. In fact, it has to be both. You've got to have that. So, you know, Pioneer, we do the global stuff. We send kids all over the world, but we have to be invested in the local. And the city is where the future is. It's the only future we have.
Fantastic. Dwight, thanks so much for sharing with us today.
May bless you.
Some of the enthusiasm for mission, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And viewers at home, please remember the challenge of the cities, the urban areas, and as dozens of new centers of influence are being established around the world, pray for them, get involved with them, and remember the young people who are training for urban mission. Remember them in your prayers, because it's wonderful to see 20, 30 here. We need hundreds more. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. Next up, we travel to another urban area, the city of Jakarta, and learn about a center of influence.
Thank you. We're here in the heart of Jakarta, Indonesia, one of the major cities here in Asia, and we're on the street where the cars are passing by. With me is Arlene, and Arlene, you're part of a unique ministry here that's specifically working in a big city. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing?
Okay, our ministry here, actually, at the first time when we established the ministry, it's called Chinese Ministry Center Jakarta. Actually, our vision is how to proclaim the Three Angels message to the Chinese community. But later, years until now, we realized that God actually lead us to the city evangelism. And we can see that more and more people of the city of Jakarta coming here to study the health, because we are using health message as our tools to evangelize to them.
Okay, so what exactly did you do to use the health ministry to reach people?
There's various of the programs like radio program. We have talk show, health talk show, and also we have the health seminars. We also have the consultation and the healthy food festival, like that, cooking class, healthy cooking class, and we can see that this is very attract peoples of Jakarta because of the lifestyle and the disease coming from the bad lifestyle.
Now we're standing in front of someplace called Club Sahat.
Oh yeah.
And I think you've been very involved with this. What exactly is this?
Actually, Club Sehat is the healthy food store where we can provide the healthy food like the seeds, the grains, the nuts, and the beans, because it's kind of difficult to find this stuff in Indonesia. And actually, this is a type of our ministry to the people around Jakarta. So they can come and not only to buy the healthy stuff, but they also come to listen and to learning about the health message through the seminars and the lifestyle consultation, like that.
Now upstairs, you've had a church service this
Yes,
morning.
that's right.
Now sometimes people have a health store and some people have a church, but the two don't always connect.
Connected.
How have you guys managed to connect those two?
Because we can see that through the health message, it really like push them to have a lifestyle change. And when they have the lifestyle change, some of them and many of them were healed. And they asked us, where you guys get all these stuffs? We said that it's from the Bible. And we opened the Bible study class with them. And from the health message, they learn the truth from the Bible, and they coming together and worship with us and become one of our members.
Okay, now, the church this morning was full. And how many are members and how many are visitors in there?
Actually, our members is just a very little number. It's just like about every Sabbath, 15 to 20. But like what you see this morning is actually not too much of the gas, because we just, today, we separate, we just open one of the center of influence in another place. So usually 15 to 20 members, and then we have about 20 to 50 non-SDA guests every Sabbath morning.
Okay. And for those who may not know, a center of influence is something that Mrs. Ellen White talked about, where she
that's
talked
right.
about small centers in the city that can be a positive influence.
That's right.
And using Christ's methods
That's right.
to win people
Yeah.
to Him. Now, one of the things that you are doing too is that you have people going out in the streets and doing things.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about that.
This is the regular program that we used to do, because we want this center, this place, as really a center of influence to the people surroundings. So we distribute the brochure, the tracts, so everybody around here, I mean, if someone from like another cities and they don't know about us, it's okay. But we just want to make sure that nobody surrounding this area that said that they don't know about us, about how to learning the health message and how to learn the truth from the Bible.
So how have most people found out, how did most people find out about this place?
Number one is from word by mouth, because they have friends, they have family that already come here and be healed, and they get their health was improved, and they're the one who recommend them to another member, another friend, and bring their friend coming here. We also have the radio program and also the distribution of the brochures, the tracts, but it's not as having a big impact as the word by mouth, but by our friends here.
Okay. And people who are in marketing understand that word of mouth is the most powerful, because
That's right.
you trust what somebody you know tells you. That's wonderful. Now we've met a few of the people here.
Yeah.
Could you just maybe very briefly share a story of somebody who's come here and whose life has been impacted?
Well, actually, there's many testimonies what happened here. It's not because of us, of course, but we can see how God really works in this center. Like we have like Evie. She's the one who coming here because of the health message. She heard our program from the radio and come and learn about the health. And then she was attracted with her sister to learn the Bible also. She's the vice president of a bank here, a private bank. And now she's becoming an active member. And we can see the change, the life change from her that really changed her life. So she always invite her family to come to this center also.
Okay, our time is almost up, but just maybe one sentence.
Yeah.
If somebody wanted to do this, what would you tell them?
What I can share to them, that we are an ordinary people. There's nothing special about us here, but we believe that we have an extraordinary God who really have a power to do this work.
You know, I hear that over and over again. You have ordinary people doing extraordinary things through God.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eileen. And thank you at home, and pray that God will show you what you can do to do extraordinary things.
Next up, a trip to Mars and mission overseas, and it's all to do with commitment.
Wireless telegraphy, also known as radio. The history of this innovation feels like a soap opera. Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla were rival inventors. Radios still rely on a Tesla coil component today. But just as Tesla was preparing to unveil a wireless transmitter that could carry a signal 50 miles, his workshop burned to the ground. Edison was known for using hired thugs and even the mafia. But the cause was most likely an electrical problem. With Tesla's work literally up in smoke, Guglielmo Marconi swoops in and manages to send the first transatlantic signal. His patent is later denied because the design relied on Tesla's work. Then the ruling was overturned in favor of Marconi when Andrew Carnegie and, you guessed it, Thomas Edison stepped in with marketing and money. In 1943, much later on, Marconi's patent was reversed again and posthumously awarded to Tesla. Getting radio to work at all was an endeavor filled with drama, but the effects on communication, culture, and society were even more dramatic. In 1905, the Japanese Navy obliterated a Russian fleet at the Battle of Tsushima, in part because they had purchased radio equipment from Marconi. Radio distress signals saved the lives of over 700 Titanic passengers, and subsequently, it became law for every vessel to have a wireless operator listening 24/7. People likened radio to newspapers, which was helpful in determining content, but there were several powerful distinctions. You don't need to be literate to listen to radio. You also don't need to make extra time because listening, as opposed to reading, can be a passive experience. You can listen to the radio while you work on other things. The radio was like cultural glue, uniting different classes and backgrounds under the banner of immediate information. The voice of the man on the street was heard alongside the voice of Orson Welles' War of the Worlds and alongside President Franklin D. Roosevelt's fireside chats. No president had ever spoken directly and simultaneously to the American people before. Politicians suddenly needed to become great orators. Propaganda was easily fed to the masses. There was another notable figure tied to the origins of radio. The same year Tesla's workshop went up in flames, Harold Marshall Sylvester Richards was born. When Marconi sent the first transatlantic signal, HMS Richards was 7. When his first live sermon was broadcast, Richards and radio were basically the same age. In 1929, HMS Richards' ministry took root in Los Angeles, California. After advertising one of the massive evangelistic crusades on the radio, the station offered him a daily spot for a family worship program. Richards was convinced evangelism must utilize the radio. But conference headquarters thought differently.
Radio is so new it's never been done before, and besides, it's the devil's tool. After all, alcohol is advertised over the radio, and so are cigarettes. The devil's tool, that's what it is.
While the conference remained unconvinced, Richards grew more obsessed. Finally, a friend confronted him.
Harold, you still haven't done anything about radio. Do you believe in it? I know God wants me to do this. He won't leave me alone about it. Do you really believe God wants you on the radio? Yes, I do. I know He wants me on the radio. No, you don't. You don't believe in any such thing. What do you mean? I do believe it. I really do. Well, if God wants you on the radio and you believe that's where He wants you, why aren't you on the radio?
The weight of his own fear and unbelief hit Richards like a ton of bricks. The very next night, when he stood at the door to collect offering, he told the congregation that his left coat pocket would be the radio pocket. If they believed in the ministry's potential, they could donate. In the middle of the Great Depression, HMS Richards' local congregation gave $220. That equates to over $3,000 in 2015. They gave it in cash, gold jewelry, and even teeth. Night after night, the money for airtime filled the radio pocket. While most radio preachers only preached, Richards worked with a producer and musicians to create a professional, polished program called The Tabernacle of the Air. Once-a-week broadcasts became daily broadcasts. Letters poured in with questions, prayer requests, and cash. Programming expanded. Lone Star 4, an all-male quartet, became a staple on the show. Evening meetings were recorded and sent out as far as the Atlantic coast, Alaska, New Zealand, and Australia. This went on for 7 years with no support from the conference. Finally, in 1937, the Union Conference decided to unite with ongoing ministry and actually convinced HMS Richards to move into radio full-time. From then on, the voice of prophecy was transmitted over the airwaves twice a week, coast to coast, by 89 different radio stations. After a renaming contest, the Lone Star 4 became the King's Heralds. Richards became a recognized radio authority. The Oregon Conference sent Julius L. Tucker to learn everything he could from Richards. Eventually, Tucker would learn enough to found his own program, The Quiet Hour. Today, because of HMS Richards, the voice of prophecy can be heard in nearly 36 languages. Bible lessons are available in over 70 languages. Adventist World Radio broadcasts in 80 languages and estimates that they are able to reach an astounding 2/3 of the world's total population. Embracing new tools and innovation brought Seventh-day Adventist missions into the modern world, and radio was just a first step in another 50 years of growth.
Well, I hope that you've enjoyed today's program, and more importantly, that you've been inspired and challenged by the stories that you've seen and heard. Around the world today, many missionaries, many frontline workers, many church planters are sharing the light of God's love. And it's very challenging for them in many different ways, and it's so encouraging to them to know that there are people around the world who are praying for them. So thank you so much for your prayers, thank you for your personal involvement, and thank you so much for your mission offerings, your tithe, your gifts to global mission that make such a huge difference, that open up doors of opportunity for mission. Before we go, I'd like to offer you this free Mission Spotlight DVD. This DVD is just packed full of stories from around the world, very much like you see on today's program. Well, for Adventist Mission, I'm Gary Krause, and I hope that you can join me next time right here on Mission 360.